He's going to come, kiss you, wake you up from the sleep world. He's going to ride off on the horse with you into, Never Land, and everything will be like a fairy tale. And so
then ever after happens, after.
Right.
And I was just talking about this the other day. And that's the problem that I have with Disney, with all of these false concepts that they're placing into children's mind. And we're not even seeing that it's ooming lightweight.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that movie, Lady and the Tramp. I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
I detest Lady and the Tramp. Lady and the Tramp.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't see that we're going wrong from the title.
Well, I think people have been forced into a mentality of whenever anything comes with an authoritative voice, it is speaking fact. And that is not true. Sometimes people come with an authoritative voice or posture or position, and they are just there to continue the programming. And oftentimes, whenever you push against that, you are considered the rebel rouser, the rebel, the troublemaker, the whatever. Our history is full of a lot of troublemakers who were the people that changed the course of life, who shifted the paradigm and made society at least have an attempt at something greater. And if I have to be aligned with those types of people, then I'm willing to.
The reason why I brought that up is because as we're talking, I'm thinking about Justin Bieber.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why Bieber's in my mind right now.
Mm-hmm.
But when I heard him tell the story of how he didn't want to go to Hollywood, and his mother convinced him to.
Because people are living vicariously through their children. And whatever it was that they were unable to attempt and achieve in their own life, they see their children as an extension of their right and ability to attain that. And so if your kid is cute and aesthetically pleasing to society and has a nice voice, they then say, oh, you're my meal ticket to what I wanted that I wasn't able to get. And a lot of people are using they're commodifying their children. And they're using their children to attain that which they weren't able to attain themselves, whether through lack of talent or lack of opportunity or access to it. And they're willing to stop at nothing. And it's unfortunate because a lot of innocent souls are lost in the interim. And it's very unfortunate.
I never thought I'd see another Tevin Campbell until I saw Justin Bieber.
And this must be a heck of a time for him right now, given everything that has just taken place.
And then Quincy just passed away. I'm curious to see what this is going to kick up for him.
Yep. And here's the long and short of it. All of these topics and all of these stories have been out forever. I mean, who among us can act like we never heard the whispers or never saw the speculation or the conjecture that something is amiss in this connection or in this relationship? We've all seen those video footage when he was like, oh, I got custody of him for 48 hours and we can't discuss what we're going to do. Like, what?
No, he said Usher gave him custody.
Oh, exactly. But
for 48 hours because Usher had custody of Justin just the way Diddy had custody of him.
It's just really unfortunate. And I saw recently, and a lot of people have to be held into account. I recently saw a video footage of Justin Bieber in a old deposition. He still looked like he was a teenager, maybe I would say 17. And someone was questioning him really, really intently. And I remembered that scenario from my own depositions with Puffy. I remember it. And the other, I don't know if it was a federal agent or an attorney questioning him. Many people don't understand the dichotomy of what deposition is. They think it's just an informal meeting to get you to the court case. Oh, no, that is the case. You're in court in that deposition. And so the other person was asking him questions. He was like, I'm confused. Is this a deposition or an interview? And I'm thinking to myself, and his attorneys are like, what are you asking for? And I was like, look at this charade. I knew it to be a charade. I had gone through it. My case ran on for 12 years. I knew it to be a charade. I was like, somebody was trying to save him back then. Somebody was trying to save him. But he was trying to get away. A lot of these kids have tried to get away. Whatever was going on, he believed his attorney. He was being finessed by his attorney. And he believed that his attorney was on his side. I could listen to the deposition questionings. And I knew whoever was questioning him was attempting to save him. But because he believed his attorney with all the histrionics, he kept going the way of his attorney. And look what
Tory Lanez did the same thing.
I'm sorry to
And
interrupt
guess
you,
what?
ladies. I'm just going to put a QR code up on the screen, which is Natania's support link. So if anyone wants to support her, there's a link on the screen. If you're in the UK, you might have a bit of a problem, but as of this weekend, we will have that resolved for Natania. It's the same one from the night before, but we are getting a more universal support method and a whole bunch of new places for Natania to be supported, put her content out, inspire. Because honestly, if you've made me stop and think last night, you're gonna have an incredible impact on thousands and thousands of people. I can't wait to see the rise of Natania. Like, I am so here for it, you know. So anyone who wants to support, who can actually use this in a country where this cash app still exists, please do so. Apologies for interrupting, ladies. Welcome, Lionel.
And Natania, I'd like to introduce you to Lionel. Lionel is an ex-prosecutor, and him and his wife do tremendous work exposing the monsters behind the human transportation of kids. So he's got his own channel, and he's doing some great work over there.
You know, I've got to tell you something. First of all, I'm writing down notes and I'm going crazy trying to keep track of this. Natania, I'm a prosecutor, or was a prosecutor, and I have never. I wish I could remind people of things. The Constitution of the United States talks about the rights of the accused. There is no such thing as a right of the victim. You are given this titular kind of reference to due process. Whenever I had a case, especially it was somebody who's younger, I always said, meet me in the courtroom before the trial. Just so that you walk in and say, oh, okay, you're going to be coming in here. There are going to be people here. Because when you walk in, I have seen this. They take a little kid, or I don't care if you're 50 years old, and you walk into, they've never been in a courtroom. And normally felonies and federal, it's big. It's like a church and a cathedral. And you don't even know where people are. And you look scared. You look crazy because you say, where do I go? Nobody even has a decency to say, no, here, have a seat. Or so you want to at least demand, if anybody ever goes to court, demand that you see that courtroom before you go there. Where are you going to go? How are you going to, who is going to assist you? How many times have you heard, and I've seen this, where a person goes to trial and they drop the case or the person pleads and the victim never finds out? Or the person is bonded out and the victim's never told. Because once the victim, they always say, if you see something, say something. My ass. And then when you do it, and you're forgotten. And you're just, because the prosecutor is overwhelmed, he doesn't have the cases. And if you call up and say, what's happening with my case, they should have court liaisons. They should have social workers, especially with children, like a guardian ad litem, to at least help you through this. Because not only do you go through, and listen, when somebody says, I'm afraid of going to court. You damn right you're afraid of going to court. It's the worst. It's insane. And these jurors are looking, everybody's afraid. Everybody's afraid. Whenever I could pick a jury and I'm going to do voir dire, the first time I would go to somebody, I would say, Mr. Attwood, I noticed you're here. Thank you very much. Mr. Attwood, when you received your jury summons in the mail, what did you think? Did you open up and say, what the heck is this? Is this a tax notice? Oh, God! And you dropped it, and because you did, and people would laugh because of the tension of the courtroom. It's the worst. And you have to tell people, you have to tell witnesses, if they're asking you a question, you're my witness. Don't answer the question till you look at me. If I'm going to object, don't answer them.
That's right.
Do. And in a deposition, here is a word. Yes, no, I don't know.
No. Yep.
It is not a trial. They use it to lock you in. One of the best depositions ever is that fellow who, I'm thinking about your monetization, that dude who was offed, he never said anything. It was fantastic. That's what I want. That was perfect. I didn't learn a thing. Because remember something, the lawyer, if I'm your lawyer in a case, if I'm the plaintiff lawyer, I don't want you in a deposition. You're my client. I can call you anytime I want. It's their only chance to get you.
That's
And you set the tone. You look at them. And I used to tell clients, if you don't like looking people in the eye, you look right here between the eye, right here. They can't tell the difference. You will scare the hell out of them, but you're looking right here, and they don't know that. And don't ever be afraid. Don't fiddle. Just sit there, wait, think about it. You're the worst witness. You want them to walk out of that room and say, we got to settle this thing. We got to settle this. This one's dead. We're dead. Does anybody tell you that? No.
Of course.
But on TV, they tell you, if you've been injured, call me. Have you been injured? Oh, I've been injured. Okay, great. You're a number. There you go. It's horrible what we do, because it's just like having a doctor with a bad bedside manner. These are human beings. I'm telling you.
Lionel, from your legal perspective,
I'm talking, damn it. I'm talking that
what's it going to take? What's it going to take, Lionel, from your perspective, your experience, for J-Lo and Diddy to be held accountable for the horrors of what Natania has been through?
Well, I'm not trying to be cute. I'm not trying to be evasive. I don't know the facts of the case or the history of what's been done. I have
Natania can tell you the facts of the case.
So,
no. Guys,
I'll tell you guys something really good.
I'll be right back.
Let me ask you, has lawsuit ever been, have you ever filed suit?
Yes, I filed suit. I won in a civil trial and all of that. But here's something that I want all of you guys to know. So there are a lot of people who have tried to malign my integrity for the past 25 years. And I tell you, God has a funny way of putting you where he needs you to be, or bringing your attention to something when you least expect it. I have a moderator on my channel. I call her, I'm the dopest nerd. I call her the dopest mod. She's phenomenal. She always sends me things. She's the one that sent me the email to get in touch with Jaguar. She also sent me something this morning to look at a video. I look at the video, and in the video, the content creator is showing a snippet of another video, but it's small, and the name of the content creator in the smaller video is half cut off. But when I saw the word, I said, that looks like the word proffer. So I searched proffer. The channel is called The Proffer. He interviews the two cops who were the police officers that dealt with my case, the shooting in the nightclub. They confirmed beyond a shadow of a doubt that not only did I, but almost every one of the witnesses said, yes, we saw Puffy fire that gun, and Shine. They even said something I had never heard before. When Shine ran out of the club, I knew he had ran out of the club first and ran directly into a cop. They said his gun was still warm to touch. Watch that video, The Proffer. It's called The Proffer NYPD officers. Put in The Proffer and NYPD. It'll come up. They also confirmed that there was a gentleman who drove escorts. He was sitting in his car when the police officers were chasing the navigator that Puffy and J-Lo and Wolf, the bodyguard, and the driver were fleeing in. A woman's hand came out of the window and threw her gun out. She threw the gun on top of it. It landed on top of his car. This man took the gun because the cops in the SUV continued, and he gave it to his boss, and the boss turned it into the police. That was the gun J-Lo threw out the window. She's guilty. When I read the law, statute of limitations and everything, not only does it say when the crime occurs, the date from the time that the crime occurs or is discovered. So it is now discovered. It is now on the record. J-Lo, and they made this video 3 months ago. So now that it's been discovered, we are well within the statute of limitations for her action. Bring her back. Not the least of which is she was allowed to leave. If you go to, you're a prosecutor, you know, in any inner city town or suburb or country city, if you get caught with a gun in the car and there's 4 people in the car, if no one says this gun is mine, the gun is everybody's. But mysteriously, they allowed J-Lo to walk away. Oh, why? I can tell you there's tons of jails right now where some guy was in college, came home for the weekend, hung out with his cousin who was of a different ilk, and his whole life was wiped away because he's sitting in jail because of something he had nothing to do. As much as I say I will fight until Puffy pays the price, I will fight until J-Lo pays the price. And like I say every time, come to the front of the class, Jennifer Lopez. You got some explaining to do. You gonna see me again in a court of law or wherever. We are going to deal with this. You will be brought into account. I will not let you slide. She's not only defrauded me, it's come out throughout this year after she shoved that hideous video and movie on everybody, and everybody started coming out and speaking about her. A whole bunch of women came out and said, well, all of those songs that were hits, those are not J-Lo's voices. I'm singing that song. Even till women actually sung the song. And there's a recording of J-Lo in the studio trying to sing something, and she sounds like, and she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, that was terrible. Because she didn't sing the songs. She's been stealing the songs of Black women forever. Most notably, Ashanti, who had to come out and say, most of those hits, that's me. When you listen to it and you're familiar with Ashanti's voice, you're like, wait a minute, that is Ashanti. This woman has been manipulating people. And so what it shows is a propensity for fraud, because you have filed a copyright application and are collecting royalties, asserting that this is your intellectual property and your work, and it's not. And what I'm trying to show and illustrate to people is this is a pattern of behavior, of fraudulent behavior. She went into the grand jury when this occurred and lied. She swore, I didn't see anything, I don't know, whatever. She lied. It is a crime. A prosecutor sitting right here. It is a crime to lie to the grand jury. She's gotten away with too much for too long, and I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely sick of it. Pull up the video, the proffer with the NYPD. Their names is Shaun. I think his name was Shaun. I have it right here. Joe Sweeney and Artie Cadigan. And I remember Cadigan's name. They even talk about, remember I mentioned the hip hop cop to you, Ron? They even talk about that he was a shady cop, and they threw him out of the unit because he handed Puffy a gun while he was in the cell. Excuse me, not a gun, a phone. He handed Puffy a phone while he was in the cell, and they caught him on video and threw him out of the unit. They even say they caught him another time. The cop was going somewhere. He was passing somewhere. Jay-Z and Beyonce was coming out. He said he did a turn to avoid the crowd. He stood to the side. The hip hop cop is escorting Jay-Z and Beyonce. Woo-hoo! He was instrumental in my case being thrown. There's a lot of shady dealings here. These are two retired NYPD detectives that have no dog in the fight, but for the fact that they were on duty that night and the case was assigned to them in the Midtown South. I watched this morning. Phenomenal. They even talk everything. They vindicated me in everything. Even what I said about Scar. When I said, while he was a man of the street and ill repute, he literally was full of charisma, and I would have phenomenal conversations with him. The two cops said, it's hard not to like this guy. He was phenomenal. We had great conversations with him. Every single thing I've said has been vindicated. When I tell you God saved me for a time such as this, what a glorious day. What a glorious day. I will have my recompense, and not just me, all of the victims. Because like I said, had someone listened to me and taken me serious, 24 years worth of victims would have not had to suffer. A UCLA coach would have not had to be hit in the head with a kettlebell. All of these children that are alleged to be victims of his would not have had to endure that indignation. All of the women who were beat, and Cassie wouldn't have had to been kicked in the face on video. That wears and eats away at me. And if God called me to stand in the gap for them and be a champion to advocate for people who perceive themselves unable to stand before their accusers and cry aloud and spare not, they got the right one, baby.
Can I just ask, Lionel, right? Metaphorically speaking, of course, in your professional opinion, how could this case have gone the way it did without corruption within the police force being part of this heavily? I mean,
I could not. First of all, I wouldn't, not because I'm trying to be cheeky here, I wouldn't even venture a guess on that one because I know absolutely nothing about the facts of this case. But what I will tell you is if we had a special show called People Who Feel Like Either They Were Ignored, Not Listened to, There's No Justice, it would be endless. Let me ask you this question. What do you really want? What is really your goal? We give money because that's the only thing available. We can't take away. I can't go in and ablate your memory and your bad. I can't do that. So the only thing we have is money, injunctions, things like that.
No,
if you think about it, do you know what you want, Natania?
Absolutely. I want Shaun Puffy Combs. I want a charge added in this federal RICO for the shooting of me and for Shine shooting Jamal Bat. Well, Shine he paid his debt to society on a state level, but I want J-Lo to be found guilty, prosecuted and found guilty for bringing the gun in the club, for passing it to him and him shooting me. I want him to be found guilty for shooting me. I don't care about the money. I want my justice. I want my justice.
That's what I was going to say. People talk about justice, and I have never been able to explain what justice is, but I do it this way. Justice is that thing that you don't have. Mm-hmm. It's that thing you say, like when somebody, the people never feel, if I say here's $1 million, he's in jail, people use the word closure. They use a lot of terms. Justice is the feeling you feel like you've been screwed. It's like, what about me? There is a feeling of indifference. Do I not matter? And I hate to bring race into this and all this, but there's this sense of the white man, the black man, the woman. When it comes down to it, money, it's a class system. You see, Natania, you're not in their class. I'm not in their class. They're different. They live in a different world. They live there. They're protected. So I don't want to destroy this case. If I was in an office with you, I could ask you questions. Mm-hmm. Have you been to, do you have a prosecutor assigned? Is this case open?
This happened in 1999. I was the star witness in the trial. I said irrefutably, I got shot in my nose. By the grace of God, I look this good. I got shot in my nose. I was watching them when they fired the gun. I keep telling people, like I said in the trial, I didn't get shot in my side, my back, nothing. I got shot smack dab between my eyes. I was watching them when they fired that gun. I watched Puffy and I watched Shine. The muzzle flash went off like this. Pow, pow. Shine's was slightly higher. Puffy's was lower. Shine was closer to the bar. I was further away from the bar. Shine shot the guy standing right next to the bar. Puffy shot me in my face. I watched them. And so help me God, I've closed my eyes 1,000,000 times since then and been shot 1,000,000 times more. I will not ever let it go. Some people say, you recited so well, because this is the only case that this is a TV case that they watch 1 in 1,000,000. This is my case. This is my 9 bullet fragments that still exist in my face. This is me with all type of issues. This is me now with a missing tooth because the bullet that was over here got on the nerve in my tooth and caused me to lose the tooth and caused me major pain because it shifted. Because of course you gain weight over years. This is my trauma. This is my children having to look over their shoulder. These are my sons having to not go here and not go there because, we got to watch out. I don't know if somebody's going to be there waiting for us. Whatever. And this is them having to live in a household with a mother who is overzealously protective instead of just letting them be able to run free. It doesn't matter to other people because it's just another video that they're going to switch to. Another 3-second attention span and move on. But this is my life. And so help me God, before I meet my maker, I will face them again in a court of law and they will give me my recompense. And I mean that. To the RICO.
Yeah, Natania, I mean, you this whole case, I mean, obviously you're coming into this fairly blind, Lionel, on this one. This whole case reeks of corruption, abuse of power, celebrity. And of course, what we spoke about yesterday is you get the legal response you can afford. Right. Which is something that you hear a lot about American justice system, but the harassment, the control even of your friends and family, and again, Natania, this is day 3 of you having to relive this now. So I'm not really saying this for a response from you. We don't need convincing. I'm just letting Lionel know where we're at because I think 3 days in a row. That's I don't want you having. How's your head today?
My head is fine today. You know what I had to do? So, and you know, I've been having a perpetual headache for the last few days.
Correct.
Shungite. You know what shungite is? Shungite is a stone. It's a mineral, and it protects you against the EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies. Because my head was hurting so bad, I stuck the shungite in my ponytail, and I forgot, and I went to sleep like that. And when I tell you, I felt so alive and so free and so healthy. I said, "Wow."
Yeah. Put a one in the side chat if you just Googled shungite and let us know about that. Jag, welcome back. Lionel, Jaguar. Lionel, I don't know. I think you guys maybe met each other last time.
Lionel is my love.
Oh, yes. Are you kidding? You know, I got to say something right now. This is the I'm trying to calm down here because there's so much I want to say. You know, Natania, I had a case years ago with a man. I represent a woman, but a man was shot 5 times in the head, and they kept saying 5 times in the head. And when we said the word head, I said, I don't like this head. Now, this woman was acquitted ultimately, and I said, we have to get away from this. Because when people said the word head, they think JFK, they think of all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. I use the word face. He was shot in the face because he was shot here. Mm-hmm. It was when you have a smaller caliber bullet that is bouncing around and you're looking, not only was God looking at you, there are gods. This is a pantheistic view. Mm-hmm. This is why they use smaller. I don't know the caliber or anything about that, but normally smaller caliber bullets for assassination. When President Trump went like this, and they started calling it was the ear, some called it a head. You were shot in the head. I don't care what anybody says to you. You weren't shot in the nose, you were shot in the head. Mm-hmm. And when you say this, that's like, for example, I broke versus I fractured. I hit versus I shattered. Mm-hmm. Words mean a lot. Sometimes it's funny. Police officers always do this. They speak in this cop talk and whatever. I'm not coaching a witness, but I want people to understand something. You see, everybody thinks they know about gunshots. Everybody, because they watch TV. It's not what you think. So many people would say, like, Ronald Reagan didn't know he was hit. He shot in the lung. He didn't even know because adrenaline, cortisol, and you're spinning around. It's not what people think. And one of the things is that when people say, how do you remember this? I got to tell you something about memory. Most of the time, Natania and Jaguar, we don't remember things. We remember the last time we talked about it. And whenever I would talk to a victim, they would tell a story. And every time they would tell the story, they would look at me. Imagine the die, like the 5 die. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in the middle. As they're looking at me, depending upon what they remembered, the sound, the date, whatever it was, they would look up or look down, and they would access it. Like if I ask you right now, think of the smell of garlic frying in olive oil. Can you smell it? No, you don't. You remember smelling it. But you can smell it. No, you're not. It's over here. I don't know where it is. It's someplace. So when people would recount something, they would say, it was a Tuesday. I walked in. I smelled burning coffee. I forgot to take and they're telling you stuff and I heard the clock tick, and it was raining, and that damn dog was barking. And then 6 months later, what happened? I walked in, the coffee pot, the dog, they remember everything. We forget a lot of things. We forget kind of where's our keys. But when you have a singular moment like this, it burns into your mind. And with a clarity, think about this. This is a defense mechanism. This is what nature puts in. So when you tell the story, what you just read, what your version of that story, I've said, that's it. When you talk about where things were, who was standing where, this is a story that is locked in your brain. And thank God it's a story that's there. This is something that people don't understand. Also, PTSD is something. PTSD is defined as a natural reaction to an unnatural situation. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to not say, oh, well. And when they were, again, I bring up Trump, when Trump was saying, well, I wore a badge, and they were laughing at him. They were saying, maybe it was glass. You don't walk away from that. You don't just sit there because you think, what if one little moment. One might and then you say, am I special? Am I blessed? Some people have had religious experiences. They have left and they've devoted themselves to charity. What you went through was an event that people, Natania, in war don't go through. I know people have been in Vietnam for a year. They didn't even see the enemy, thank God. You're not supposed to be in combat in New York. This isn't supposed to happen to you.
Right.
I mean, this is beyond, this is the post. This is what victims feel like. Women who are, I don't want to use the wrong word, who were attacked or people.
Mm-hmm.
It's later. And the thing about it is the most horrible is the fact that you are not in control. They told you, Natania, we don't care. On this day, we're going to do this to you. We're going to do this to you. And then when you see justice, we're going to say no, because we're different. And you say, I want to be heard. I will not be ignored. Use a line from Fatal Attraction. I want you to pay attention to me. And I want you to act like I'm the most important thing in the world. I never did anything. I'm innocent. This is a no-brainer. What are you doing? I didn't do anything. You're supposed to protect me.
That's right.
Yeah. Jaguar, you were wanting to interrupt. Yeah.
I just wanted to interject on what Lionel is saying to make sure that everyone listening gets this picture. If your car is stolen and you go to the police to report your car, they don't ask you, well, are you sure you really wanted that car? You parked in that neighborhood.
Right.
I mean, are you paid up on your car? Are you late on your car note? Like, people don't ask these kinds of questions with your average crime. But when it comes to intrapersonal crimes, it's different. Are you sure you didn't want what happened to you? I don't know how many times I've heard, so-called crisis counselors. You go into a hospital and you do a grape kit. It is one of the most disrespectful processes ever.
Oh,
because while they're sitting there collecting the evidence of what happened to you, you have the counselor saying, now, if you go forward, the testimony, it's going to be terrible. They're going to do this to you. Are you sure you really want to press charges? Meanwhile, they're collecting the evidence of what happened to you for the court case.
That's right.
And they're still asking you, do you want to go to court? Why would that be said in that moment? Because in that moment, here it is. It happened to me. You're here. You got the evidence. Take it to court. Put these guys away. And there's still a question of whether or not that evidence is going to be good enough.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, you're never going to hear the story about a woman, by the way, who faked it. Now you're not. I know this is terrible, but
but
that happens
those women
too.
are the worst.
Let me tell you something. It's one of those things. There's nothing better than, I swear to you, when there is justice in the courtroom. I don't want to go into the old stories about that, but when you have children, this is really something. And there's a question people ask is there a minimum age where people can where a child can testify? And their answer is no, if a child can communicate. And I got to tell you one real quick story. There's no, I've never seen a Bible in a courtroom. Never. It's always, do you swear or affirm? You don't need a Bible. But whenever you have a child, you always have to ask a child witness, do they understand what this means? This is the one that was the greatest ever. The judge says, now, little Jimmy, yes. Do you know what a promise is? He says, yes. A promise is like a mirror. We can't break it. And we thought, that's it. That's it. They said, that's it. We've entered a plea. That's it. Done. Finished. There's also nothing better than when the person says, and you see the person in the court today, when I've seen them get up, walk over, and do this. Oh my God. One of the most incredible moments in American juridical history. There was this terrible case, Emmett Till. Remember this? Obviously. His uncle, grandfather, somebody who was the only person there who saw these folks come to get him, whether he whistled at the white woman, who knows? But this man, this sharecropper, uneducated, wearing bib overalls. They asked him, and this man in Mississippi, whatever, stood up in a courtroom and pointed out he was signing his death penalty. And you know what he said? You know what his identification was? And he stood up and he said, Dar he. D-A-R he. That's it. And they said, oh, he could have been Cary Grant. There are these moments when things happen. You know, just because something happened doesn't mean you can prove it. You know, Shaun, what did you have breakfast today? Yeah. Can you prove it? What'd you have to eat? Can you prove it? Anybody see it? I don't know. Why would you lie? Well, can you prove it? No, I can't prove it. I don't know. Sometimes you could say, I believe him because it's just the way he says it. I believe him. Why would I lie? We need to revamp everything. You also said, please cut me off, Shaun, if I'm saying too much. You mentioned kids. This is the thing which, and by the way, Natania, I want to hug you. When you said, I'm not going to hit a kid, I will never understand that. I will never understand it. I used to tell people, I was a talk radio host for a long time. And whenever there was a slow day, they said, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? I said, oh, simple. Ask whether spanking is right or wrong. People go crazy. People say, my daddy hit me. I'll tell you what, it was good enough for my daddy. Spared it right on the child. I'm okay. You know, say, well, okay, well, I'm not about that. And people feel like if they were to say that they were spanked, they're saying something bad about their parents. You know, meanwhile, the guy's walking around like this for the rest of his life. You should never hear that. Do you know that on death row? On death row, I can't go in. If somebody throws his food, a man that we're going to execute, I can't spank him. I can't spank somebody on death row, but I can spank a little kid who doesn't understand something. And let me say one more thing about spanking while this freaks me out. You know, when you're a kid sometimes and you get mixed messages, you can really screw people up. You know, they talk about your fanny, your fanny. And of course, Shaun, in your neck of the woods, and you too, Ron, that word means something completely different. But here it means the hind end, the butt, whatever it was. And they always think it's easy. It's no big deal. It's innocent. There are parts of the brain. That innervate the same places around the genital urinary perianal area. Make a long story short, if you hit a child and they receive a feeling of, wait a minute, what was that? Not that it's arousal, it's confusion. And you're yelling at them. And there's this classic Pavlovian. This is Pavlov. You're pairing this and this and this. You're telling them they may get a strange, you might be creating a circuitry that nobody ever thinks about. Leave kids alone. It's like spanking a dog when you come home and he does something on the rug. It's like, what are you doing? Dog doesn't know what the hell you're doing. It's the same thing with a child. Thank you for saying that. Leave kids alone. Do like my parents did. Mental cruelty.
What you were referring to is conditioned response. I was a psych major. You associate now this conduct with this reaction. And so that becomes a loop in their mind for everything.
But I'm doing something which may, at a certain age, cause a weird form of arousal, because if you don't think this area is important, if I'm in a subway and I were to, they call it frottage. I think you know about that, Shaun. If I were to rub up against a woman's posterior, you can't say, oh, that's not sexual, because that's not. Oh, yes, it is. Well, if it is with an adult, it is with a child. You see, we think that kids are so, and you also said something about films. I got to tell you this. Were any of you ever just terrified the first time you saw a Bambi? Did you ever think to yourself, what the hell is going on here? This is Walt Disney. I remember I saw Old Yeller with my father. Old Yeller.
Traumatizing.
Come on, Paul. He goes, well, we're going yonder, get my gun, Paul. Paul, don't shoot Yeller. And I said, excuse me, Dad, yeah. Why don't they take the dog to the vet? I remember as a time. What are they doing? They're not going to kill the dog, are they? Yeah. The dog's sick.
Yeah.
In the world between where both of you just were, I just wanted to throw it out for some of the other geeks. There's a word that puts all of this into perspective. It's called dopamine.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's also neuroreceptors.
Exactly. Right. So even in trauma, if dopamine attaches, it can create a longing for something that wasn't there before.
Well, put it this way. When you get a rush, and you don't get a react addicted to the substance. You get a reaction to the dopamine surge. That's that wonderful thing. That's why if you take a really good, something really serious, meth, like one time, and your brain says, I like that. Let's do that again. And it's very natural. But look at children again, how we as adults put them through these things, and we think that they're resilient. We think they're little people, and they're not. So this, every time I listen to the show, Shaun, you kill me. You absolutely kill me, because there's like 50 million different things, and you sit there, you evil genius, just taking it all in. I expend myself. I can't sleep for 6 hours. Thank God I met Jaguar. Now my new best friend is Natania. Ron, I'm not so sure about. Ron's another story. But anyway, but still.
Yes.
One more thing before I forget.
He's intimidated by the hair. He's intimidated by the hair. Okay, it happens all the time.
This is the version of the Russell Tribunal in the 60s. Bertrand Russell and Sartre wanted to go around the world to put together a citizens tribunal to find out the sources and the problems associated with the Vietnam War. We don't need, this is the people's grand jury. Mm-hmm. You're seeing this right now. This is going to go all over the place. See, in the old days before social media, Natania, your case would be like, who? Natania, who? Mm-hmm. Maybe somebody, maybe Geraldo, maybe New York Post or somebody, maybe the Inquirer. Short of that, nobody's going to hear from you. Well, they're hearing from you now. We are in charge of this. I'm not going to go to some grand jury to say, please validate my case. No, we'll create so much political pressure, you'll have to do something. Like that rat bastard Gascon in LA, who, by the way, was thrown out, but all of a sudden he says, hey, I think we should look at these Menendez brothers. Yeah, because you're 30 points behind you, schmuck. All of a sudden they care about him. All of a sudden they worry about him. And I mean, I can't believe this. And those kids, those were kids. They have no defense. And one more thing. Hang on, Shaun. Let me get a word in here. Damn it, let me talk. We have this thing in this country called the insanity defense. I hate it. The insanity defense means that you did not have the ability to detect the difference between right and wrong. Well, the idea is that people do have the ability. What if you're on a subway platform, Shaun or Jaguar or Natania, and you have voices that say, push somebody. And you say, but I don't want to. Push them. And you do it. You knew right from wrong, but you were in a psychotic view. Guess what? There's no insanity defense. None. Okay. And there's no defense for the Menendez brothers. I'm sorry.
Can I say something, Lionel? I agree with you absolutely, except for in cases of demonic possession.
Except for that?
Because demonic possession is exactly that. Something jumped inside of you and you let it. But see, there's still a choice there.
I think you're upset, Natania. I think she's disgusted with you. She got up and disrupted. I got to tell you something too. Just fill me in. I take it. No, this is what you look like, Jaguar. You're sitting there. You have a large bespectacled person behind you, and you're sitting like this, like you're in the like on a train to Hooterville.
Grand jury attendee Courtney Burgess.
Listen to me. I'm working on the Pony.
This was Courtney the whole time. This was Courtney like this. Mm-hmm. I know. Courtney. And then Ron was saying, excuse me, did you put the Gmail in the...
Well, guys, as much as I would love to stay, I came back to say an official goodbye. I always love a chance with my Lionel. And thank you, my Roro and Shaun. I can't wait to open this. And I'm going to leave my girl Natania here because I want people talking more.
Where you going?
About this. I agree. I got to go and do a thing. Okay. But call me after.
I will.
Thank you,
I think you're enough to close this one out today. I want to get back in the comments. Because the comments, they got stuff going on down in
Oh,
there. And
it's been on
I
fire.
don't know. Are we still at 9K in the chat?
Look at you,
13,
numbers.
almost 13
9K.
across all platforms.
Oh, wow. We
Yeah,
can get into the 13. No, you guys are in great hands. And I really loved what I heard, you know, the conversation between Natania and Lionel. And this woman can never speak enough, and we can never listen enough. So you call me after, and you guys let me know what's going on. Today was interesting.
Yeah.
I'm curious
Definitely.
what the 12th is going to bring.
So am I. So
And on that note, I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Jaguar.
Thanks, Jag.
Lionel, you raised a very important point about the amount of
It's
pressure.
about time.
The amount of pressure and publicity on a case to get it reopened. So what is it going to take for Natania to get the justice she deserves? What advice do you have? What pressure can be put on? What legal strategies can she use? We got to focus on how we can get that pressure up there so Natania gets this justice.
Well, I again, not just jumping into it at the last minute, because there's nothing worse than somebody who starts making questions. You know, it's like doctors who will try to diagnose on a radio show or on the phone. Not a good idea. But the best thing you do is, there are people right now. You want this reaction, Shaun? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, find out what about that's all, and then follow up with this, and then whatever. I would suggest that you keep a copy of this, and the next time you go to any prosecutor, you can say, by the way, I'd like to leave you a URL if I could. You might want to watch this show, because think about this is all over the world. And there's nothing worse than a prosecutor or anybody who says, oh, for Christ's sake, what is this? She's on what? She's on the Shaun Attwood Show. What the hell is that? Why am I getting calls? Let's get to the bottom of this. That's the best way. Because if everything's kosher, let somebody explain it. That's all. Because Natania would say, just hear her out. Hear her story. That's all. Let me tell you something. This case, I got to tell you this much. You remember this, Natania. And I'm older than all you folks. So this is the best I can do. There is how do I say this? There was a guy years ago. Hannibal Buress? He was a comedian. I think he was in Philly. I think we talked about this last time.
Yep.
And Bill Cosby, for years, women had gone and talked about this. He put something in my drink. He attacked me this. Well, Bill Cosby, file after file. Women, I don't know the number, 5, 10, hundreds, who knows? Nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. Then what happened? In an obscure Philly comedy club, this guy's talking. Somebody has a phone. They put it up online and they say, what about Bill Cosby? And that was it. He ends up in prison, and it was the end of everything. Now, why did it take that long? I have no idea. But it happened. The Menendez brothers are going to be out because of Netflix. Same facts of the case. Same everything. It's on Netflix, and people are saying, hey, I think we should look into this. So let us hope that justice will be accelerated by virtue of you being here with us right now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I pray that is exactly what happens. I know an ant can move a mountain if you just give him enough time. I think 25 years is ample time. I've been meticulously moving grains of sand and silt and dirt and sedentary rock, and now I have a mountain over here, and I'm ready to go.
Did you see, by the way, not to bring politics into this, Shaun, I know you don't want to do that. God forbid. You don't want to be controversial. But last week when we had this disaster of a case with, as we say in Spanish, que mala, everybody on her show was on the Diddy party list. It's like, wait a minute. You don't think that? No. I mean, it was a veritable who's who of folks who came out all of a sudden with this half-ass, half-baked, fealty towards her candidacy. That story blew everything up. You mentioned Justin Bieber. Have you noticed that 1,000-yard stare? He always looked. When I see those pictures of him, in the one scene where Diddy was taking the tarp off of some car, he says, "This is going to be your ride. I've got 24 hours." And he looks, there's a look where you stop and he looks at the camera. And I swear to God, my heart just, oh my God.
Yeah.
Help
me.
Oh.
You're being
Where are his parents? Where are his parents? Where? I don't understand. There's two things. We need to, and I don't want to sound like, oh no, oh God, look at this. There's one picture where he turns, he looks his eyes right into the camera, and my heart breaks. He's doing it. Look at this. He's like a lamb to slaughter.
Yep.
Grown man with a child. Look at this. And you know what they do?
Lionel, can I ask you a quick question? You see, when they talk about what is the term? Guardianship, right? I've not got guardianship. Is this guardianship used within the industry as a way to relinquish parental decision making, Lionel? Because
I've never heard this 24-hour. You got him for 24 hours. What is this?
Because it seems to me like it's a legal paperwork that says you can make all the decisions for this child. And for me, that's a scary concept, Lionel. One of these days, you're really going to get scared. Is the conservatorship in California? That's another story. Let's say, Natania, you're a big. Here's a what the hell is her name? Wendy Williams. They did the same thing with her.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm Shaun's caretaker. I come in one day and I say, I think Shaun's acting a little weird. He seems to, and I go to a court and I petition to be your conservator. I'm nobody. And they grant it. And I clean you out. It's like slavery. My friend Diane Diamond, she used to be on years ago on one of these great during the OJ case. And she wrote a book, and I thought, this can't be. Look at Wendy Williams. They wiped her out. You get money, it's a different story. The abuse. How about people going to courthouses? I forge a document, I forge a quitclaim deed, Natania, and I own your property. Yep. And I mean, what? This is insane. And then when we have the number one prisoner on the planet who's in a jail cell, and all I'm saying is, don't let anything happen to him. Just him. Okay. And you get these two, I don't know, looking at the internet, falling asleep. You can't write this. Yeah. And I love when people in my country say, we're the best country in the world. Says who? I mean, I like we have the best system. No, we don't. What are you talking about? It works sometimes for the most part, but not always. I mean, this is, Shaun, what you're doing is you are basically peeling back the scab of this purulent furuncle, this sebaceous herpetic lesion. This is for you, Ronnie. This pustule, this purulent, this lymph-filled carbuncle that we're squeezing with this gelatinous lymphatic ooze, which is the detritus and the funk and the fetid and feculent detritus of people throughout the years who have been just cast aside. That's what it is. You smell that?
You're really going to be my best friend, Lionel. I love work.
Oh, yeah.
And you definitely said it. And that is what you're doing, Ron and Shaun. That's what you guys are doing. You are peeling back layers of stuff that regular Joes couldn't penetrate. You are making it palatable so that other people get a bird's eye view into the middle of things. And not only was Wendy Houston under a conservatorship, so was Britney Spears.
Yes, exactly.
And it's always the same shtick. All of a sudden, somebody's crazy. Somebody's not.
And you mentioned Whitney Houston. That's another story. Yeah. Remember who she was with? It's a long. Let me tell you something. I want to tell you that if people knew the truth,
Yep.
you know, by virtue of my, and I've always been saying this, but my wife, she has a YouTube channel at Lynn's Warriors.
Okay.
You cannot believe what kids, what kids are going through, what is happening in the open. She was talking about pink cocaine, tren de Aragua, all these unaccompanied minors, kids who come over the border. They don't have Natania, they don't even have a name. And if they're missing, who's missing? That little girl. What little girl? The one who was here. That's right. Lynn's Warriors.
Still a bunch of children from Katrina that were missing.
Yes.
It's like, oh, it's flooding down here. Send your kid up in the helicopter. They'll be safe. And then there are women that report sending their kid up in the helicopter to never be seen again. And
how about Oprah? How about Oprah with her help? How about Sean Penn?
Yes.
How about Bill Clinton? How about all these people?
You're
Nobody
right.
ever follows up on anything.
Yeah.
Let me also tell you something. When you have a story that is so hard to explain, the great Marshall McLuhan said, and I love this, little lies are hard to keep secret. Little lies, little secrets, little controversy, but big lies are easy because of our incredulity. Mm-hmm. The worst thing, if I told you, for example, that at the local church, there was demonic possession and organ harvesting. Now, let's assume that were true. People would say, you're out of your mind. Why? Because I can't get my head around that. But it's true.
This is
They've
what
been talking about organ harvesting forever. Because I don't want to hear that. So because I don't like that, or because, Natania, I don't like you saying that there's something wrong with my system, you must have done something wrong. You don't tell me, don't ruin my purview.
They're fairy tale. It's
right.
Full deniability. People want to act like that can't be possible. And then they try to project onto you by saying, but he's rich. Why would he want to do something to you?
Exactly.
Oh, he has everything in the world he wants. Why would they do something to you? That would be stupid to jeopardize. Well, you are speaking from a perspective of someone who is logical and wouldn't do something wrong. But they're speaking from a place of entitlement where anything goes. And if you got enough money to throw at it, they know all of the hangers on are for sale for $1.
Years ago,
someone with integrity.
Years ago, there was
just before you continue, Lionel. Can I just say to everyone who's watching right now, we've got Lynn's Warriors, the channel being posted in the side chat, and we've got the Dopest Nerd. The Dopest Nerd is at 2.4K, and Lynn's Warriors is 8.7K. There's 11.5K watching. Can we get Lynn up to 10K minimum, please, people? And can we also get the Dopest Nerd boosted? I'm sorry to interrupt, and I know that
that's okay.
Thank you so much.
It's when we've got an audience like this, and you guys are giving up your time. It's only fair to give a little bit of subscriber funneling. It's 2 minutes, everyone. Just if you just go and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. And I'm going to be checking in on you. And if you don't hit those targets, all of you in the side chat, in trouble. Thank you.
I got to tell you a story. My beloved wife, one time, she went to, I got to tell you something right now. I don't care if anybody likes this or not. I love Donald Trump. Because what I went through with this guy, you have no idea. That may bother you, but I don't really care. It's a free country. But let me tell you what this guy did. There were a bunch of Native Americans, Indians, we used to call them. I love the Indians. And it's not because Columbus thought he was India. It was about the La Gente Indio, the people of God. They say Indio, they thought it was Indian. Anyway, did you know that on Indian reservations, you think black folks have it bad or gays have it bad or whatever? It's unbelievable. There were kids who were just missing on Indian reservations. It's like, what? I mean, nobody. They pick up the phone. What are you going to do? Call their trial? Do I call the Indian Affairs? Who do I call? Gone. So at the White House, he opened it up, and you should have seen it. It looked like, oh my God, it was like, you should see the outfits and he's the only person who cared about missing Native Americans. Oh, because we talk a great game about Indians. Every now and then there's a Dancing with Wolves or something comes up. We don't give a damn. Remember Sasheen Littlefeather? You probably don't know that, but this was when Marlon Brando, when he won the Academy Award, he sent Sasheen Littlefeather. Turns out she's Mexican. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So when my wife and I were at this thing for it. This is amazing. For it was indigenous something or other. And she and the name Trump came up. Do you know that they said, well, what has he done? And she turns to him and says, I'll tell you what he did. He was the only person who cared about your people. That, you see, nobody cares. I don't care about politics. Just tell me the truth. If somebody screws up, that's fine. Let me tell you what happened years ago. After John F. Kennedy was killed in 1963, nobody believed the Warren Report. It was garbage. Just like the 9/11 Convention, it was garbage. So the CIA, and this is before the Zapruder film, the CIA came up with this memorandum that said, we're going to weaponize the word conspiracy theory. So when somebody says that, we're going to say, you're a conspiracy theorist. Well, yeah. And that means crazy. And we're going to say this, Natania, there's no way this could have happened because you know how many people would have to keep their mouths shut? See, that UFO didn't happen, Natania. It didn't happen because do you know how many people can't keep their mouths shut? Yeah, they can. No, they can't. That didn't happen. Natania, that didn't happen in the Catholic Church. All those altar boys for 50 years weren't diddled en masse by Father Fitzpatrick and Patrick Fitzpatrick. That never happened. Why? Because this would have gotten out. This would have gotten out. Shall I go through all of the horrors that we've experienced where somebody said, there's no way you can keep this quiet? It's all quiet because we don't want to hear about it.
Right. I mean, I just said to Ron, I believe yesterday, 25 years ago, December 27th will make 25 years ago I've been shot. Yeah. The cops in the video I watched today said they interviewed over 350 people. And trust me, there were more. The rest of the people said we didn't see anything. The club had almost probably 1,000 people. Why am I the only person speaking for 25 years? One rapper just came out about a month ago and did an interview and said he was in there. It's the first time I ever heard it. But he just said he didn't see anything. He heard it and he told his portion. Of course, secrets can be kept. There is 350 people were investigated by the district attorney and the detectives, and not one of them have anything to say. How? In a social media environment? Let me tell you something. My foray into the world of social media is huge for me because I had a love-hate relationship with social media. I wouldn't really indulge or get on social media in the beginning. And I would be one of those people who was, rapidly on any emerging technology and things like that. I didn't want to get onto it because 25 years ago, before there was a social media, I was viral when there was no viral. People were harassing the daylights out of me. And this was with newspapers. I was on the front cover of the newspaper. People would curse me out in the street. The first time I went to the movies with my family. They were like, come on, get out. Which the first movie wasn't a good idea. It was The Matrix. And oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, talk about ironic.
I love The Matrix, but the amount of gunshots, it was just too much for my psyche. Right. But the people in the window that realized who I was because I still had on bandages started, oh, let me check to see if your money is real, and just harassing me like it was nonstop. And this was before there was social media.
Have you talked to these officers? Have you reached out to these officers now?
No, I just saw the video today. I just saw that
today.
I will be reaching out to them. And Shaun, I would love if you could get them on.
That would be fantastic. We'll reach out.
Yeah, Detective Joe Sweeney and Detective Artie Cadigan. They both.
Well, you got to call you got to be able to find it. I'll bet you they're online. One of the things I've got to tell you something, which is, and I don't want to in any way compare the two, but unless you know what happens, the Central Park 5, what people think happened and what people actually say happened are two completely stories. There's an expression that Tolstoy says that history would be a wonderful thing if only it were true. Well, recent history is tell me what happened. Yeah. Do you mean to tell me, this is my favorite, just as an example, I hate to give it all these side, but we have this fellow, something I said, Shaun, something I said, please, forgive me. You people just get up.
Yeah, no.
It's goddamn bunch of people. All of a sudden, it's like, did I say something?
Freaking love you, Lionel. I love it.
I got poor Jaguar. She's in a car like
Honestly,
this. I got
you-
the other guy.
No one has ever made it as fast as you, Lionel, onto my fantasy dinner party list so quickly as you, my G.
This is one of the best shows ever. I appreciate that. But anyway, when Bobby Kennedy Jr., was running, do you know the information that's available on how Sirhan was not the only one? And yet Bobby Kennedy's not saying, excuse me, I'm Bobby Kennedy. They killed my father. It's not. Even he's quiet about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand this. Princess Di. Hello. Wills and Harry. That's one of the reasons why I think Harry's so nuts.
Yeah. Nobody's
ever said, excuse me, I'm Wills. I'm the future king. What happened to my mother? Don't give me this nonsense about the thing. I want to. How are people so quiet? How does this just get whatever? John Kennedy.
They learn to get along and go along.
So Natania, if they don't get justice,
mm-hmm.
Oh, look who's back. If they don't get justice, what do you expect?
That's right.
I mean, think about this. This was the president that everybody loves. This is I love when people don't they don't react to something. When people started walking around wearing this mask, and I said, it doesn't work. What are you doing? And people were like, and they're just walking. And I thought, look at people. Look what people will subject themselves to. Look what people will overlook.
Yeah.
I don't want to get political, but when you look at what's happening in the Middle East, we're saying, oh, well, what are you going to do? I remember being on TV one time. I was talking about women in the Democratic Republic of Congo, 250, 500,000 who were, I can't use that word, but who were attacked with bayonets and they had fistulas and nobody cared. I said, what? This is, and somebody said, what do they export there? I said, what? In the Congo. What are they exporting? I don't know. They got chocolate.
Coltan.
Nobody cared. Huh?
Don't they have coltan as well?
Yeah, but if it was oil, put it this way, my friend said, Gerald Salenti said, what do you think about the chances would be for us to invade Iraq if their main export was broccoli? You see, we are the most imperfect. We are psychopathic. The way we turn off and on
humanity.
We look at people.
That's right.
That's okay. That's not okay. This is okay. That's not okay.
Yep.
What they did to you is Natania's like, well, what are you going to do? And you also know that they take one look at you, and I know you've thought about this.
I know.
And they say, what was she doing there? Where there's smoke, there's fire. You know how it happens. You know, hang around these rappers and wait a minute, what?
Yep.
You know how it is. They're just
and they've said it to me directly. I've had people question me like this was a theme of, oh, well, if she was so spiritual, what was she doing in the club? Because I always used to go to the club before I got saved. There was a time
Excuse me.
Walked away.
What was Jesus' first miracle? Curing cancer? No, wine. A Cana.
Water to wine.
Jesus, I hate to bug you. Yeah, listen, we're out of wine. Oh, shit, why don't you tell me?
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, everybody's dead. I'll get you in a moment. This one's deaf. I'll get you in a moment. Jesus, can you? Lazarus, one. But wine, no problem.
Yep.
Fish, bread and fish, no problem. Parties, Jesus is your guy.
Yep.
Then he got it. I don't understand this. Who did Jesus hang around? Hookers, pimps, degenerates. And that's why I fit in right here on the Shaun Attwood Show.
People of ill repute. But here's the deal. He and they were in great company because they all served a role. They all served a role. From whom much is required, much is given, but they have to go through. They have to go through. The beauty of going through is you're not going to stay in the midst of it. You're going through. You're passing through because there is beauty on the other side. It's beauty for ashes. And that is why I'm so resolute in what I have to say and how I feel in my position. I'm resolute because beauty for ashes. I went through the fire and I do not smell like smoke. And I am going to make sure that anyone who ever had a doubt about this case, anyone who ever perceived themselves with the inability to speak up and say what they went through and to speak to people that typically they would be afraid to interact with. I am not afraid, have not been afraid. They can't stand me because not only am I the survivor who is speaking truth to power for 25 years, I'm walking around with evidence in my body. They cannot stand me. And I don't have a problem with that. I don't need to be liked by that kind of people. I'm going to make sure that they face the ramifications of what they did. And I'm going to make the government work and do what they're supposed to do. I'm going to make the law work for those who look like me, that are not in the upper echelons of society and not in the who's club. I'm going to make it work.
You know, you mentioned something interesting in Natania about having evidence in you. I have a friend of mine who was the victim of a suicide bomber in Tel Aviv years ago. And listen to this. He has the bomber had a suicide belt, or the belt. He has the bomber's bone fragments in his body.
Wow.
He has the bomber. So he walks around. And if you don't think that gets mystical and weird, and then you think, how did this happen?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love the notion of odds. How did it's not survivor's guilt, but why did I'm sorry, please.
I did go through it. I suffered survivor's guilt for about 12 years. Really bad. Really, really bad. Because there were stories after I got hurt of someone. There was a guy who was, you know how when you're a kid, you walk on the edge of the sidewalk, one foot in front of the other.
Right.
A guy had done that and fell off the sidewalk, hit his head, and unalived. And I was like, how is this possible? How do I get a pew-pew to the head? And this person just tripped and fell and they're gone. And the irony was my mom and dad had divorced, couldn't stand each other. When I tell you they could not stand each other.
That's normally a good reason for the divorce.
Oh, they couldn't stand each other for other things. But my mother called my dad and said, come and talk to your child. She is going through. We need help. She's suffering too badly. And he came, and he was the only person to get me through it. He literally, I don't know if God just put these words in him, but he literally said to me, those people that perished ever since you got hurt, God has a Lamb's Book of Life, and in it are millions and millions of names. When he turns a page, some people cease to exist. Their page there, and that's the last page they were on. He said, this book is massive. Your name is on millions of pages. Get up and live. And that snapped me out of it.
You know what's funny? I've always wanted to be God's lawyer. And the first thing I would say is, thank you very much. Yes, Lionel for the defense. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, God didn't have anything to do with that. God said, what are you looking at me for? I didn't do that. I didn't shoot you. I gave you people free will. Mm-hmm. And then when something happens, then you want me to stop something? I did. You wanted to, okay, you want to be on your own. You don't want me to, okay, fine. I'm not going to rule it. Randomness, weather, this. Hey, it's not from me. I didn't do anything on purpose. That's like I like when people pray to God because they're in the World Series or they're in the pitch and it's some soccer game. It's like, what? You think God's going to say, all right, well, I'm sorry, you called me first. You know, you talk about something which I always thought survivor's guilt made no sense. Survivor's guilt. You thought you'd have survivor's glee. I made it. Yeah. Doesn't that make sense? That's logical. Guilt because you can't figure it out. Exactly. And whenever you have a problem with locus of control, I can't control this. This doesn't make sense to me. Why this? It's like when people have found out years later that they were adopted, and it drove them crazy. And they said, but my parents, I love them. Why did you do this? They're 50 years old. And everybody goes through the same thing. You think you're so special, Natania? No, you're not. You know, let me tell you something. I'll bet you, if you walked into a, how do I say this? Somebody, I'm getting up. Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. You know, I've got so many damn tones. I'm thinking, that's Ron again. Because I have this tone and that and WhatsApp and who's app. But I'll bet you if you walked into a veterans center and you said, excuse me, what are you? Were you in the war? Sort of. Do you know what I think I can relate. I think you'd be surprised. I think people would say that's exactly because the model of what you're feeling is identical to what they're thinking.
I've met a lot of veterans, and yes, I share
Natania, talking about the miracle of your existence, Did they do an analysis of the path of the bullet?
Yes. And so I'm glad you asked that. So the neurosurgeon who did my surgery, the nurses, I guess he was making rounds and he passed by the nurses station. And so they were like, well, yeah, she said so-and-so. And he said, she said, who said something? And they said, oh, the patient, the lady who you did the surgery on to get the bullet out. He said, what? She's speaking? She's awake and speaking? So he came to my room. He didn't believe it. And when he came to my room, he put his hand on he just stood there and he said, you know, kiddo, let me tell you something. I'm a man of science. I'm a man of science. The path that the bullet took in your brain, there's no reason that you should be alive. Not the least of which, how are you up and speaking? You know what my answer to him was? To God be the glory. Perhaps God saved me so that you could know that he is still in the saving and the healing business, and so that you could know that he was real. He said, I'm a man of science. I don't judge anybody's religion. However, I deal with the practical side of life. The path that the bullet took, you should not even still be here. The fact that you're here and you're alert and you're up and you're laughing with people, how? And then you're not angry? He said, I've never seen a patient like you. I said, anger. Well, my mother and them and my cousins were in the room, and I said, anger belongs to them. I'm here. I don't have a reason to be angry. I'm here. I made it. I'm happy I'm here to raise my kids. Yes, they did a study of I literally have, there were, for years I carried in my wallet. I had to stop because it was getting like all those creases and wearing out. But I have a report from a doctor that even measures all of the bullets to establish that it is a full 9mm bullet. The only that's not in the measurement is the portion that was aspirating into my lungs that the doctor took out. And incidentally, I don't know if both of you know, but it was a hollow point. Hollow points hit, they shatter. And Ron, I think you explained, Ron, how it works with how they shatter or whatever. But
yeah,
when they enter,
but they mushroom out. That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
It's to do the most. But the irony though is that if somebody tries to explain, how about through and throughs? How about there are people, for example, there are people, as you know, Ben Carson did a hemispherectomy for years as a neurosurgeon. He took out half of people's brains.
Yeah.
You don't need, as one doctor says, you don't need all your brain. I just don't know which part you do. But you'd be surprised. Let me talk about odds. This is what God is telling you. Sometimes if you look around the odds, think about this. If I had not, just think, Shaun, if you and I had not met at that weird men's room at that rest stop years ago, but that's a long story. But by virtue of happenstance, when he walked around and says, girly, cheap, hey, sailor, remember that? I know you told me not to bring it up, but it was such a delightful story. But here's the thing. When you look at what life is, you've heard about the butterfly wings, how the flapping of the wings can actually cause a tornado. Yeah. If God were to say to you, okay, listen, Natania, pick 6 cards. Great. Look at those cards. You know what the odds of you getting those 6 cards in that order was? 1 out of 15 trillion. And you would say, it doesn't mean anything to me. No, you don't understand the odds, but the odds didn't mean anything. We do things constantly where we defy the odds, but we don't attach anything. Look at childbirth. Do you have any idea of how that's not supposed to be? How this thing, one peptide, one capsid protease problem, one motility problem, one problem with ovulation, one little polywog, one flipper that something that just, it wasn't time. It's a crapshoot. And you think, dear God, the miracle. Then go to Mumbai. Then go to Mexico City. Go, holy God, they're all over the place. Well, is it that rare or isn't it? Go to a fertility clinic and these people are saying, I can't do it. So everything about our life, everything is randomness, this entropy. Is it God? I'm not as spiritual as you. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I just am amazed at how things happen and don't happen, and how, for reasons that we just don't know, one move, it would have been completely different.
And
but you have
People are asking Natania if you could just expand on that, the path of the bullet. The answer I'm kind of deducing is that it went into the nose and it split, and some of it ended up in your lung.
So I have a few fragments right here. And so as a teenager, I never had acne. I was one of the lucky ones. My skin has been flawless all my life. As a teenager, my skin was clear. After I got shot, my face broke out over here really bad, because this is where a lot of the fragments are. In my cheek, so they couldn't remove the rest of these fragments because of where they were located. Right over here. So when it first went in, it broke my nose bone. It broke my nose bone and it broke my cheekbone. There's a big portion of bullet right here. It took out my entire nasopharynx. So you know that membrane in the back of your nose is like a bubble? Mm-hmm. I have one in this nostril, but I don't have one in this nostril. That caused a lot of problems. It took that entire thing out. A piece of bullet fragment went through there, hit something, and ended up in my cerebral cortex, causing me to have a disorder. The rest of another part of bullet was...
You had what disorder? I'm sorry, what?
A seizure disorder.
Oh, seizure disorder.
A big chunk is right here. This is the biggest chunk of bullet that's left, but a piece of bullet also went over here. That's the one that eventually moved. I started having massive headaches a few years ago. Couldn't figure out why. And I would put a towel over my head. I was photosensitive. I mean, everything. Right. If you spoke to me, it hurt. I didn't want people to breathe. It hurt. And my son was like, no, mommy, this is too much. I got to take you to the doctor. Took me to the hospital, put me on morphine instantly. When they did the film, they said, oh, you have some metal in your face. And my son was like, I told you my mother had a GSW. And it's like the nurse didn't know what a GSW. She looked and was like, a what? My son was like, a gunshot wound. And they're like, oh. Then they look at it again and they're like, the piece over here shifted and landed on top of the nerve for that tooth. It was so inflamed, they had to rush me into emergency surgery and give me a pulpectomy. Mm-hmm. A pulpectomy is when they take all the nerve out of your tooth. Or when you got a hollow tooth, that tooth has no structure anymore.
Right.
So the tooth broke. The tooth broke off. The bottom part broke off and the root was still here. So then I had to open a hole in my mouth. And eventually they had to extract the whole thing and I lost the tooth. I wouldn't, and that's when I had started I had a talk radio show here in Atlanta called Having My Say. And so I would talk about all type of issues relevant to the Black culture. And then eventually I stopped and people were like, why, when is your show coming back? Why won't you talk? I was humiliated because I was missing a tooth and life gets in the way. I had a lawsuit, but I helped everybody in my family here. This one's kids going to college. This one, going to lose their house. I helped everybody. I did things for myself. I did things for some people who didn't deserve it. I had some people who took the check with the right hand and slapped me with the left hand. But do I regret it? No, because I had a mentality. Once I got that lawsuit, all types of craziness ensued. And it was my sincere belief that there was so demonic energy attached to it.
Now, may I ask, without going into specifics, was that lawsuit was settled successfully?
Yes.
Okay, go. Okay, fine.
I cycled through. I forced myself to cycle through. Like the house I originally bought, I sold it. I didn't want money. I didn't want anything attached to the original money. Nothing. When I tell you I got rid of every single lamp, everything. I didn't want anything attached to the original money because it felt like it had a demonic attached to it. They would send people my way. Somebody would happen upon, come to my beauty salon. I heard that you're a great beautician. Next thing you know, they're weird. They're asking me random questions. I'm like, me? What are you asking me that for? What does that have to do with anything? I'm instantly realizing, wow, they're sending people my way. Then it sends me into a lack of safety because now who can I trust?
Right.
I have family members, distant people that will randomly come and ask me some strange thing, or we've had a conversation before and now they call me back and they're recycling the same conversation like we never had it before. And I'm like, and I'm not one to play the game. I'm like, who's standing next to you? Because we already discussed this.
Right.
You asking me these weird questions. And then people get offended. And then they pull away. My kids have lived to see so much stuff. When I bought my kids their cars, I bought my son, he was 17. I bought him a Dodge Challenger. with an SRT8 Hemi engine. I didn't know what a Hemi engine was. For a 17-year-old, I said, you guys, prepare. And I bought my oldest son a Range Rover. I said, prepare yourself. Your life is going to change. People who used to, when my son was in college, I said, people that used to catch a ride with you in college to get to the Walmart to buy groceries, they're going to hate you all of a sudden. My son was like, oh, mommy, that's ridiculous. You don't understand. Until about a month in, my son called me crying horrendously on the phone. I was like, what happened? I thought something happened to him. And he sends me a text message and he's like, mommy, look what somebody put on my car. And they wrote this big evil. You think you all that because you got a Range Rover? You ain't nothing. A horrific letter to him. His feelings were so hurt because he didn't know where it came from. He was like, and there were just people around that he knew. And he was like, did y'all see who did this? And everybody was like, I didn't see anything. And it made my kids then go into this hyper awareness of who's in their circle and who's around it. This thing is perpetual. It continues to fan out. It doesn't happen once and go away. There was a time where literally around 2015, 2016, I started saying, I'm being cyberstalked. I'm being cyberstalked. And people were like, what?
Yeah, you're crazy.
Yeah, what now? And I said, I'm telling you, I'm being cyberstalked. I could go to a restaurant with my family, take out my card to pay. Every single card of mine declined. Every one. I could then say to my son, all right, well, let me transfer the money to you. I transfer the very money I tried to pay with to my son, and he can pay it. Or I transfer it to my daughter if it's just us two, and she can pay it on her card. And I have a parent account, same account, but she can pay it. I've been at the gas station stranded because for safety, I'll lock my cards. And then nothing in my account will work. Thank God my daughter's independent, mature, has money. And she'll be like, oh, I'll buy it, Mom. Why am I going through this? This is nonsense. I go to Barnes & Noble's 3 weeks ago, almost a month ago. I walk in, go do what I'm doing because I wrote a book called A Shot in the Dark. Buy my book.
Very good.
It's on
put a link
everywhere. Shaun has this. Ron has this stuff. But I walk into Barnes & Noble's. I come out of Barnes & Noble's and someone was walking, across my path. So I went around them and it made me end up at the back of my truck. I look at my car and I'm like, where's my license plate? Someone stole my license plate. It means I'm being followed. I'm being gang stalked. This is not a nice feeling. My daughter said to me one day when she was in the 5th grade, she's now a high school senior. She was in the 5th grade, school was out, we were home, and we were watching Good Morning America. And so they had Malala Yousafzai on. And so my daughter says, oh, that's Malala. So I turn and I say, oh, excuse you, you know Malala? And she's like, Mommy, I'm a big girl. Of course I know Malala. And I said, well, you know what Mommy and Malala has in common? It just came out. And my family's from Trinidad. So she looked and said, is she from Trinidad? And I said, no. I said, we both got shot in the head.
Wow.
And she just like, and I just started crying intently. And I could not console myself. And she hugged me and she was like, oh, Mommy, it's okay. You're a miracle. And at the time, God just spoke to me and said, I've been trying to tell you that. Check and see how many people survive. And it never occurred to me to Google how many people survive getting pow-powed in their head. And so I Google it and it says only 5% of people that sustain gunshot wounds to the head survive.
Let me ask you a question.
And
Let me ask you a question.
That have cognition.
Now you have said something, Natania, and first of all, anybody who would question you did not listen to your sincerity. You didn't skip a beat. Everything you told. See the way you told. Barnes & Noble story. You came out, you walked in front of you, the way to walk around the car. That's the stuff I love. Details, not this people. And then and then the next thing you know, no, you're very, very specific in cars and time. Okay. I don't know how the harm, I'm never going to suggest that there's no harmony to the world, that there's cycles and energy. But do you think that there is something, you can call it demonic, you can call it spiritual, you can call it a frequency. You were on radio. I was on talk radio too. If we never had a radio, we'd swear there were no radio waves. We'd swear, it's like, what are you talking about? I don't have AM, FM. What is this? There are things out there, infrared, this, ultraviolet. Mm-hmm. Do you think that maybe there was some kind of you unleashed demons, angels, sprites, poltergeists, something, because people are, I think the word is effing with you. It's like you're doing this for no particular reason other than to disturb your order, to scare you. No harm is done. If you call the police and say, well, was any harm done? I'm scared. I'm petrified. What do you think about this?
I do. I think there was and it's funny. I've had my own feelings about it. However, like I told them when I got saved, and someone asked the other night, Ron, and I realized when I watched the playback, I never directly answered the question.
Okay.
The time I got saved and the time that this happened. I got saved in October. I got saved in October.
Got spiritually saved.
Spiritually saved. I got saved in October, baptized in October, and then this happened December 27th. And the irony, just a quick story about my salvation. I was in the church. My girlfriend, like I said, came to my shop, told me, why don't I come visit her church? Went to visit her church. Had been going there for a while, felt comfortable, felt a church home. Literally, big church in New York called Christian Cultural Center. There was probably about 6,000 people in there that day. The pastor comes in, he's preaching, he stops instantly. He says, oh my God, there's a woman in here. God is talking to you and he's talking to me right now. Get up and come here. He is sending you a message. Please come right now and let me give you salvation. You are about to be tested. I instantly knew it was me. But when the world is in your ear, it'll make you believe. The enemy will make you believe, oh, they're going to look at you and think you're dirty. He's making this big scene. They're going to think you're a terrible person. And I was listening to that. You know how they illustrate an angel and a devil on one shoulder? I was just, oh, I don't want anybody to judge me. And he was like, please come now. You're about to be tested. The whole, a dominion of evil is coming against you. You're about to be tested. Come now. I would not get up. I wouldn't get up. I sat there. So then he said, I tried. He went on with the sermon. When he got to the benediction, he stopped. He was like, stop it. I can't let you leave here. Come now. God is talking to you. I promise you. I wanted to get up. I sat there. There was a woman beside me. I had never met this woman a day in my life. This woman stuck her hand behind me, under my behind, and lifted me up and said, God said it was you. Get up. And she lifted me up, and that is what I needed. When I stood up, I felt like everything washed off of me. I felt this level of peace and freedom, and I got up. The church went ballistic. I'm talking, if you know anything about the Black church, people catching the spirit, running all over that church. Like, it was unbelievable. So to get your salvation in this kind of way, with 6,000 people in jubilation, standing up here, I was like, as I made my way down the aisle, I felt free. I felt light. I felt something overcame me that I promise you, there are no words in the lexicon to explain it. I got there. You want to know how the pastor caught me? Like this.
Oh, yeah.
Put his hand up right to my face and said, you are about to be tested. This is not the end. This is not the end. This is the beginning. You're about to be tested, but salvation is yours. And I was like, I'll tell you. So everybody's rejoicing. It was amazing. Afterwards, I wouldn't cross the street without looking 12 times. I was like, is it a bus? Because you start to hyper focus, like, what's coming? And so I was completely immersed into the word. People stopped coming to my shop because they would come to my shop and I'd be like, can I tell you the goodness of God? And I'm talking, these are like, look, Scar used to come to my shop, the guy they got into the melee with. And I'd be like, let me pray for you. Let me lay hands on you. Because when you get saved, sometimes the pendulum will swing all the way to the other side and now you're a holy roller. That's what happened to me. Eventually the pendulum swung somewhere in the middle and I settled here where I am. But I'll tell you, everybody that would come to my shop, I would be like, let me tell you the goodness of God, because that feeling of euphoria that came over me was something I had never experienced in my entire life, and I wanted everybody to feel it. So help me God, people stopped coming around. They were like, uh-oh, you heard about, they used to call me Ebony. Professionally, as a hairdresser, I was known as Ebony. They'd be like, you heard about Ebony? Oh no, she's a holy roller. Don't go over there to the shop. She's going to try to save you. It became a joke in the community, I promise you. I'm a tough cookie. I could take it, but they were like, woo. They would see me and be like, hey, pastor, hallelujah. it became a joke because people were just like, my God, look at this change. I tell you what I felt was unbelievable. It felt like this level of euphoria. And so that night when I got to, so I wasn't going out at all. I had always fed the hungry and the homeless at Thanksgiving out of my shop. And then I would go to all the, women's shelters, and I would go to Kings County Hospital and feed the staff and anybody hanging around the waiting room. I would just feed people all over. I did this all the time. So when I got there that Thanksgiving night, they were like, oh, we thought you weren't going to come. You normally come earlier than this. And I'm like, no, there's a lot more people out, and that's why I'm late. But they were happy to see me. And I'm a humanitarian. This is what I've always done. When it got to Christmas, I told my friends, I will not, my girlfriend, who was a party promoter that I went with that night, there were about 6 of us, she said, please come to my New Year's party. I said, there's no way. In the Black family, we have something called watch night. It has to do with when Blacks were enslaved, they would go to the church and watch to make sure all of their people made it over to the next day, made it to the new year. And so it's called watch night service. I always go to watch night with my family. It's just how it was. So I said, I can't go out with you on New Year's, but I will go out with you the day after Christmas. And that I went out on Boxing Day with her. And of course, the next morning was December 27th. People on the internet said to me, this was more than likely a sacrifice because the incident with the city college where the 9 people died because of his event was December 28th. Years later, you shoot me in the face on December 27th. What is the probability? What is the statistical probability of 2 major crimes connected to your life happening years later around the same day? Something needs to be studied about what's going on at that time of the year. Now, we know a lot of demonic souls run at the end of the year because they want to snatch souls from the kingdom. So you don't make it over to the new year. And I was like, I'm not going to be around with y'all. I'll just go out for Christmas. Before I left, my child, who I now know has a gift, he has the gift as well. He said to me that night, Mommy, don't go. You're going to go up to the sky. I'm never going to see you again. He was 7. And I was just like, oh, go inside your grandmother's house, boy. You're just trying to make me not go. Out of the mouths of babes. That night I went into the club. Somebody on the internet said, you were the holiest thing in the room, and the devil was looking for a stole to steal from the kingdom. That's how you ended up shot. Because I promise you, when I told my friends, when I saw them backing back to the door and reaching in their waist, I said, oh my God, watch out. I think you're going to pull a gun. And she said, what? And I said, and when I turned back and I looked at them, God said, calm down. You're about to be hit. I screamed, no. And that's when, pow, pow, and hit me in my face. God was with me the whole time. And I learned when I was getting my salvation in my baptism classes, the first thing out of your mouth in a crisis, you either speak life or speak unaliving. And I said, Father God, don't take me. I'm not finished raising my kids. I have work to do. Let me do your work, God. And that's what I said. And that's why I'm here. I could have used expletives. Every day I say, Father God, you're still working on me. That's the flesh part. Listen, this mouth is like a sailor when I'm ready. But I could have said that and it would have turned out another way. But I knew, call on God. And he was with me the whole time. A lot of people have messaged me like, hey, in the story, you told a story, you bent down and picked up something. What was it that you picked up? And for some reason, I always get to that point and I forget to tell them what I picked up. After being shot and walking through the club and going through all these scenarios, we get to this kitchen, which is the connecting kitchen to the hotel above the club. And everybody's running around. There's black and white tiles and it's covered in bloody footprints from my blood. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm not going to survive. How did I lose all of this blood? And so help me, there were 5 boxes stacked 5 high, kind of askew, and they had carrots in them. I could see the carrots poking out and the little stem hanging out. And I went and stood by the carrots and I just held these paper towels to my face and was just spewing blood everywhere. And everybody started running through this side doorway that was very dark. And people told me, come on, come this way. And I ran that way. And when 100 people had just went through the doorway. As soon as I got to the doorway, God said to me, bend down and touch the floor. Very random. But I already learned, don't question God. So right when he said bend down, I bent down and I touched the floor. I didn't even look. I would never bend down and look and touch a floor without looking. I touched it. And I felt something metal. God said to me, put it in your bag. My bag was looped around my head and the paper towels were in my hand. I just stuck it and put it in my bag. I never even looked at it. When I got through the door, a man came behind me in this dark corridor and tapped me on my back and said, come with me. And when I looked back, I saw his face and I knew him to be one of he was either the brother of the club owner or the cousin, or they all looked alike, the Burgos family. And as soon as I saw his face, I said, that's one of them. And I said to myself instantly, how did he know it was me? It was a dark corridor with a bunch of people. He knew it was me because they watched me on a video camera. Somebody in the internet saw me on an interview and they said they were coming to make sure you were finished. As soon as we heard this loud commotion, he ran and left me. And here I am in this area now where he had led me where nobody else was there. When I got to the block that night, we had never seen this before. There were 2 ambulances at the head of the block, one on the right side, one on the left side. Both of them were halfway on the sidewalk and halfway in the street, narrowing traffic to 1 lane. I said to my girlfriends, what is this? Y'all don't find this strange? 2 ambulances? Are they expecting somebody to be unalive? Oh, come on, Holy Spirit. Come on, hallelujah. Just get over it. Come on. Stop acting like that. And I was just like, I got a bad feeling about this, guys. The ambulance is there. One took me and one took the other guy that got shot. There was preparation and intention here. I was the most severely injured by all accounts. If you, to this day, 25 years later, they will say 3 people were injured. The woman shot in the face was the most seriously injured. They took a guy who was grazed and a guy who was shot in the shoulder to a level 1 trauma center, St. Vincent's. They took me to St. Clair's Hospital, a community hospital where women go get to touch up their facial surgery. A local community hospital. They were so lackadaisical and blasé. I was like, they're trying to let me die. I really thought that. And I literally said to the nurse, I never cried, I never passed out. I said to the nurse, excuse me, can I have the phone? She got the phone. She brought it over. My fingers were so nervous I couldn't dial. I said the number to her. I could only remember my god sister's number. I said, please call this number. She called the number. I took the phone. I had just left my god sister's house to go out to the party. When she said to me, hello, I said, tell. Her name is Chantel. I said, tell. She said, why? Whose number is this? Why are you calling me to tell me what happened at the club? Like, call me tomorrow. And I said, tell. And when she heard me say that, she was like, are you okay? What happened? I could hear my brother. She started going, what happened? What happened? I could hear my brother-in-law in the background screaming, what happened to Eb? What happened to Eb? So help me God, I finally cried. And I was like, please call mommy. I'm not going to make it. I got shot. And she was like, what? And she was screaming. My brother-in-law took the phone. What happened? I said, call mommy. I got shot in the face. Just then, the nurse hears me crying. She comes back over. The TV is playing in the background in the emergency department, and she sees all of the thing coming. She goes, oh, mommy, that's you? That's what you were saying? That's what you were saying? You saw J-Lo? How she look? What she had on?
Oh, my God.
I promise you, I was so disgusted. They had ignored me the entire time. They were apathetic. I was laying on a stretcher. By the grace of God, my mother, who was in her own right a powerhouse, connected politically, everything. One of our personal family friends is a senator. My mother made calls in no time. I was transferred by this extreme medevac ambulance from St. Clair's to St. Vincent's, where I was rushed into surgery, and that surgeon saved my life. They rushed me in as soon as I came in. As they were leading me down the hallway, I saw my mother lean over the gurney. And they were like, man, we're rushing. And I said to my mother, tell my kids I love them. And my little sister was over my mother's shoulder. She was crying inconsolably. She was looking at me with horror on her face and crying inconsolably. And I told my mother, please take care of my kids. Tell them I love them. My mother said, no, you go in there and you have that surgery and you get out. You take care of your own kids. My name is Grandma. You're a mother. You're going to take care of them. You stay strong and you come back out here. And I was like, yes, mommy. And that kept me alive because I felt myself fading away. That kept me alive. And I thank God for my mother. My mother is a powerhouse. If you think I'm strong, baby, wait till you meet Gloria. Nothing to play with. Nothing to play with. And by the grace of God, I'm here. So when people try to make a mockery on the internet, oh, please, all of a sudden she's spiritual. I've always been like this. I grew up in the church. When I made my way back after my 20s, you know, like I call it my Black Rumspringer. When I made my way back to the church, I never played with it. I was serious. Because there comes a time where you become an adult and you kind of pull away and you go to the world and you see what's out there and you go explore. And then you realize, oh, I like it and I'm staying, or it's not really my shtick. It wasn't my shtick. And so I made my way back. I tried to get out of it. My son said to me one time, my grandmother used to take my kids to church. My son said to me, Mommy, come on, come to church with us. And I was like, I don't have anything to wear. He looked up at me and said, Jesus said, come as you are. I was like, okay, I'm coming. I had to go. What can I say to that? I knew from a very young age that something was different about me. I have been through many things. When I was 9 years old, I self-diagnosed myself with scoliosis. I was reading a book by Judy Blume called Dini. I saw this big word, and everything she explained about this young girl was everything that was happening in my body that I had tried to tell the adults in my life, but they wouldn't listen. So I bust into my mother's room this Sunday. I think it was like a Sunday night. I couldn't remember. It was like a movie of the week was on. And I was like, I have sclerosis. And she was like, get out of my room. You don't have nothing. I was like, Mommy, I'm telling you, I have sclerosis. She was like, get out of here. So I went to my grandmother's room and I was like, Grandma, I have sclerosis. Please save me. And she was like, why do you think you have sclerosis? And when I told her, she kept telling my mother, take her to the doctor, take her to the doctor. My mother said, she don't have no sclerosis. Don't listen to this child. When she finally agreed to take me to the doctor, because my grandmother needled her, he took me in, made me touch my toes, sent me for some x-rays. He said, I have good news and I have bad news. And she said, well, what's the good news? He said, you don't have sclerosis. She said, get your jacket, let's go. He said, hold on, you have scoliosis, and I'd like to know, you know that. And I explained to him, he said, you're 9. Scoliosis doesn't even show up in 9-year-olds. So I've been different my whole life. I told Ron and them last night, I never felt like a child, never. When I was a kid, I used to say all the time, I'm grown. Trust me, that doesn't go over well in a Black household. But I always felt like I was an adult in this little body. As I grew, people was like, she's a wise old soul. Because the spirits that's in me has been alive for many lifetimes and is a very powerful and accomplished spirit. It just landed in this flesh house this time around. I never felt like I was a child. I always felt like I was a mature grown-up and you could talk to me. I used to tell them, why do you have to hit me? Just talk to me. And they would say, what? Because like, who are you talking back to? But this is who I've always been. When I was 17, all of the things they tried, all of the medical things they tried to deal with my scoliosis, I was growing too much. For 1 year, somebody lost my x-ray file in someone else's caseload. And in 1 year, I jumped. When I first went in, my curvature was like 8 degrees. When they finally had to do surgery on me at the age of 17, they corrected me from a 32-degree angle down to a 19-degree curve with a metal rod in my spine called a Zilke instrumentation. In fact, the spine specialist that I went to who did my surgery did the surgery for Gloria Estefan when her tour bus crashed years later. I had to learn how to walk again at 17. I've been through a lot. This level of strength doesn't come from a one-time incident. This is a lifetime of God preparing me for this. So if anybody questions where my strength comes from, a lifetime of things. I'm not here because I have nothing better to do. There's lots of things I could do with my time, but I want justice. And I want to make those people accountable because this is how this whole thing stops. People let plausible deniability allow this man to wreak havoc on a community, on a bunch of people, on a world. Havoc. Those people that allow this foolishness are culpable too. I've seen the blogosphere where there are people who try to rewrite history now and absolve themselves of any guilt, even though they were paid to look the other way for years. I won't call any names. But I'm not playing. My assignment in this journey of life is to hold the guilty accountable. And by golly, oh boy, will I.
Wow, absolutely mesmerizing, Natania. You're such a powerful speaker.
Thank you.
And yeah, I've got to help Jen put baby Ziggy to bed because it's getting late here in the UK. So I'm going to step down and let Ron continue. I'm going to continue to listen though on my phone because I'm just so gripped right now by what you're saying. I know it must be horrific to relive it.
By the way, you are a witness from God. You are, oh my God. Now, did I miss something? When you bent down and you said bent up, pick something up. You
I
said,
always forget that part, don't I?
I thought to myself, did she say it and I forgot?
I
What did you pick up? A gun? What was it?
No, it was a bracelet. So have you ever seen those rappers with the gigantic jewelry on?
Yeah.
It was a massive gold bracelet full of diamonds shaped like a bicycle link. God had the forethought in the middle of what I was going through to tell me to bend down and pick that up and put it in my pocket. So I didn't even know it was there. When I was in the hospital, I asked my mother for something else. And I said, where's my belongings? And she said, don't worry, your purse is together. It's in your clothes. It's under the bed. I said, I'm looking for something. She looked and I said, because I didn't know what it was. And she's like, I said, what's in my bag? She's looking through. She's like, it's just your makeup and little stuff and then your jewelry. And I said, what jewelry? I didn't have any jewelry there. And when she took it out, I was like, and then I realized that is what God gave me. A friend of mine actually took that bracelet to the Diamond District in New York and sold it. And I lived off of that money for a long time.
Wow.
This is how good God is. In the midst of the storm, he wanted.
And I can't believe they didn't take that some orderly didn't go through your purse and take it. And by the way, I don't live too far from where the old St. Clair's was. It's in Hell's Kitchen. It's right over here. And then they took you to Vincent, kind of in the village. And Vincent, St. Clair's was when they would take AIDS. It's not exactly, wasn't a good place. That is not a level 1 trauma.
Yeah. Why would you take someone shot in the head to that?
Have you, Natania, have you told, of course, this is a stupid question, so please forgive me. Have you told your story, your testimony? Have you ever been to churches to let them hear the spirit, the word of this? Because this is inspirational.
Clearly, you're speaking something that I need to do. So I've talked at different places. Yes, I've talked at a few churches, but not the tour that I need to have. And see, God called you here today to set me on my course. Because He told me He was going to work with me for something, but I'm taking your word and that is what I'm going to do. I am literally going to book a bunch of speaking engagements at church. I am. Thank you for that.
Because you have to do this. And there are people. You see, there is something. Let me explain something very, very quickly. My story is not as good as yours. When I was just out of college, I happened to work for a U.S. senator, and it was in Florida. And I got to be. I did everything. And when it came time for elections, I loved to go to all the AME churches, all the black churches. I never seen anything like this. I'm a retired Catholic. It was always boring. And I saw something. And something hit me. I said, there is something here. This is mesmerizing. This is from the mesmers. There's a collective energy here. There was also something years ago that I saw, which was interesting. I became interested in it. I was slain in the spirit, by the way, by Ernest Angley. Not that matters, but I became absolutely fascinated by this, by the charismatics. By a lot of people who said to me, and it never happened to me, but who said, when you enter this, in fact, the Catholic Church said, we don't want you to do this. They said, be prepared. There is think of it like a frequency. There is something, and all of these people cannot be making this up. There is God. There is the regular go to church. And then there's FM or microwave God or whatever. And there is something to this. And once you dip your toe in that medium, you're never the same. Again. I say people who, not that there's a connection, but people who have had contacts with what they believe to be aliens and that sort of thing, you are never the same. Please, I'm not trying to compare the same. But when thousands of people say the same thing, who am I to say you're making this up? You're exaggerating. There is something. You have a duty to tell people, for all of you folks who think that God is this theoretical guy in the book, let me tell you something. And do me a favor. Prove me wrong.
Mhm.
I say it is the holy word of God, the power of God. Tell me I'm wrong. Give me an alternative theory and I'm with you. What else could it be? There is no other excuse. There is nothing.
There's nothing else. It's definitely God. It's
Oh,
I mean,
100%.
he had the forethought to tell me you're about to be hit.
Mhm.
Just to save me, to like, I'm getting ready to take you through, because there's a scripture that says, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. A lot of people misunderstand it and they think it to mean nothing will be formed against me. No, the answer, it's like a Jeopardy question. The answer is in the question.
Right.
Weapons will be formed against you. However, if you walk according to my will and my way, they will not prosper. I have to reframe that for people all the time. They think it means nothing will happen. Something will happen, but I won't let it prosper over you. And my life has exemplified that. When I tell you I don't doubt God for anything.
Have you ever dealt with people who have been, because I'm always thinking that using this model, there's justice you can get from the courts. Yes, that's one thing. But you have in you this cosmic experience that you need to share with somebody else who likewise was a victim of violent crime, who can't put it together, who feels like, who needs you to help them work through this.
Ron is working with me on that. I started writing a docuseries called SHOT, an acronym SHOT, Survivors Helping Others Through. God put that in my spirit one day, and I said, I'm going to do it. So I started filming out of my own pocket, started filming, doing interviews. We did quite a few, and then the pandemic happened and shut us down. And so, and things were in a standstill, but now Ron is going to, I have a sizzle reel and everything. We have some footage around to help me.
Oh, I've already started the ball rolling today on set your new platforms, third-party monetization, all this kind of stuff. And then we're going to get this whole docuseries planned out and done and released. And just making sure that we're taking steps to create your online world now properly. Do you know what I mean? Because it's people kind of stumble into YouTube and stumble into online, and there's loads and loads of ways to just make sure that you can, keep lights on and keep things pressing forward. And I just want to remind everybody again, the Cash App link that is on the screen down there is Natania's. Anyone who would like to support her, what she's doing, you can do through there. And next week we'll have a broader spectrum of ways for people to support Natania.
My trusty dusty sidekick, my daughter, is standing over there peering at me. We have a movie date, so
okay.
Guys, I felt this penetrating stare. I was like, did I do something wrong? Then I looked at the time. I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, Natania, I'll be honest with you. One last thing. You need to do public speaking, right? Because there's more to you than words. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a little, magic using pagan witch, right? And when you had your hand out of the screen, right, I had to get out the way at one point of that because of the resonating white energy, right?
See, but that's the slain in the spirit. That's the
resonating.
They've been doing this, this, and where people. I mean,
it was a spiritual, like, mag light of energy coming through at me, and I don't need you trying to make me a better person, okay? All right, freaking holy woman, just okay. So yeah, you need to. That
would be a tall order for you, Ron. Being a better person.
I'm okay with who I am.
Part, the river, the seas, but. That's a tall order.
Listen, I live in the gray, okay? The balance of the black and the white. Natania is pure white energy, and it's overwhelming for me.
Be careful how you say that today. These are different times, Ron. Be careful how you say that. People take
listen, I'm fully happy with who I am, okay? And you know what I'm saying? But my word, there's rooms full of people who will just harness that energy. Right? Do you know what I mean? And I'm telling you, I'm excited to see it. Okay, I might stand behind you at a show so that I'm not in front of the waves of energy, but I fully support you because you're just incredible on so many levels, and I can't wait to get it rolling for you.
Well, I am honored to meet you. And right now, somewhere in some corner, in some recess of the world, somebody is sitting there thinking, "Holy wow!"
And I say to that, to God be the glory. I have to always shout out my grandmother. My grandmother was a faith walker. I made a family joke one time, and it's a prevailing family joke. If I had to learn certain words from my grandmother, I would never know that the word tomorrow didn't include please God. My grandmother never said the word tomorrow. She said the word was tomorrow, please God, for everything. Tomorrow, please God, I'm going to go to the store. Tomorrow, please God, I'll cook fish. Tomorrow, please God, always. She was,
that's why in Islam, in the Muslim faith, it's always God willing, God willing, God willing, God willing. You can't do anything. What time is it? 2:30. God willing. It's the same thing, because nothing can be presupposed without his ordination, his okay. Absolutely.
I tell you what, Alice, if that happens, okay, it's never going to happen. Respectfully, you're talking to a man who has met his God, physically stood in front of him, and that is why he is religious. Was not a religious man until his faithful God was in front of him. And I respectfully, but if there was anyone that could, I'm telling you now, it's this lady right here, because I'm telling you now, oh man, I tell you what, I bet I'd get really dizzy if we were sat in a cafe, right? I bet after about 10 minutes I would get so dizzy just being near you because of the energy. I'm telling you, man.
First and foremost, thank you for saying that, and I totally get and understand what you mean. I'll tell you, like, there was something on the radio the other day. I was driving my daughter to school, and the question of the day was, "Have you ever been ghosted?" Oh, I laughed. I said, "Oh, many times." Like, listen, God rest my husband's soul. He battled kidney disease and he passed away. He fought a good fight, and he was my soulmate, and I love him. But trust me, the dating world, there are very few options for me.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! No! Oh no! 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 No!
Did you just say the dating world?
Yeah, the dating.
Oh no! Listen, no. You said the dating world. Did you say? Nah, you're crazy.
Now, Natania, listen to me.
Listen. No, listen. I know what you're going to say. She's crazy. Don't pander to it. She's beautiful. Don't pander to it, Lionel. Okay? Don't pander to it.
Let me finish. If ever you are thinking about this and there is a man in your life, before you do this, you can say, listen to me. Tell me what's wrong with you. I'm not going to run. Tell me why you're nuts. What is your problem? Is it drugs, alcohol, bereavement, eating disorders, depression? How many psychiatrists? How many medical? What's wrong with you? Just tell me. Tell me that. Kind of like a Miranda card. You know, like you have the right to remain silent. What's wrong with you?
Just send me their Facebook link. I'll give you their entire internet data for the last 20 years. It's not a problem.
Okay.
Not a problem whatsoever.
They'll be like, "Oh, what you doing tomorrow?" I'm like, got some things to do, a couple of appointments. And they'll be like, "Okay, I'll give you a call." Go on.
Natania, I'm about to drop you in it, but I feel like you'll be okay with it because this is all in your wheelhouse. Put a 1 in the side chat if you would go to a weekly live stream on Natania's channel where she is projecting her amazing energy through the camera, whether you need inspiration, whether you needed lifted up. And I'm only saying this because I felt your freaking beam of energy come through, and it was oppressive to me, but to all the other people that would welcome that, right? I'm telling you now, right? We're going to plan that. Okay. Stay tuned. We're going to plan that.
And many of your followers were there. Many of your listeners were there, and they were.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
We had a great time. I let people come on the screen and just talk and I did things with them, and it was beautiful. And I
listen.
Do it.
I love that, right? And I fully endorse, your what I regard as your power. So and it's a positive one. All right. Not a negative one. It's a positive one, so I can get behind it all. 100%.
You guys rock. Let me tell you something. When I tell you the best thing I ever did was come into your live stream. You guys rock. You are amazing. Lionel are absolutely a dream. Hilarious.
No, I know. I'm just a visitor. They're doing it.
No, you're great. You're great. But Ron, you know how I feel about you. Shane, Shaun, Maggie, Paula, Latricia, everybody. And Queenie, you guys are amazing. And when I tell you, Wild Horses couldn't keep me from you guys. You guys.
Oh, Gino Vanelli.
Who?
Love that.
Gino Vanelli, Wild Horses.
Okay.
My favorite version. Check that out.
Wild Horses.
I've added Lionel into our little WhatsApp
I
group
love
as well. So just because I know that you guys will have more conversations to be had for sure.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to let everyone go. It is a pleasure, madam, to speak to you. And you are my new best friend. You know that. Let me tell you something. All kidding aside, you're a very special man, younger man. You got a lot of wisdom there. And I know you put off, you try to be, whatever. This tough, gruff experience, but inside there's a teddy bear.
Yes, he is.
A
He's
very soft, mushy, sweet man. And I appreciate it. And I mean that from the best.
I will take
gold,
that.
my friend.
I will take that because a bear is a good way to describe me. For those who I love, I'm snuggly and cuddly. But wait until you even cross one of those who I love, and the claws come out. And I'll eat your face first. Like I'll eat your toes first, and that. Like I'll prolong it as the bear. And
Thank you, Hannibal Lecter. What a wonderful. Yeah. Only you could take a wonderful send a paean of love and turn it into
the eye is closing.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Natalia knows what happens when the eye starts to close, the brain starts to go.
And Ron, with a Chianti and some fava beans, you can't forget.
Just don't mess with my people. Okay. Natania is all about forgiveness. I'll teach you the tough love slowly. I'm telling you.
Can you hear the lambs, Clarice?
There you go.
Hello, Clarice.
Guys, it was a blast as always.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Thank you for
all the best.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Take it easy, guys.
Thank you.